Oh, everybody, we gotta talk about AEW Dynamite. I don't know why, but we do. So here it is. I feel like we got tricked into watching Collision because it was all Collision players all night for the most part. News and notes. Let's start there. So it came out shortly before I started doing this review that Rita Chatterton, the young lady who was the very first WWF referee, female, accused Vince McMahon of rape in 1992 or something like that. Apparently, she worked for Tony Khan for 1 year. She doesn't say when, but she said that she was under contract for AEW and didn't do anything for a year. I find that to be very suspicious. Now, I think she might have been a talent scout. I think that's what officially it was called. I think she was officially on paper a talent scout, but she said she didn't do anything. Now, a lot of the AEW fans are taking this as Tony Khan's just a nice guy who gave Rita Chatterton a job and didn't ask her to actually work for it, which, again, seems weird. I know you have money to burn, but why? And I also have to ask the question, why do you insist on getting into business with people who have heat with WWE? Like this whole thing with Martha Hart and now Rita Chatterton. What is this? What is up with this? I don't understand this. Look, good on Rita for the free paychecks, I guess, but there has to be something that Tony Khan is getting out of this. And I'm very suspicious about what that is. Because Rita Chatterton hadn't been in the business since she said that Vince raped her. It was in like 1992. And now here it is, what was this, maybe 2019 or some point between 2019 and 2025. And you had her on the roster as a talent scout? Okay. It just seems to me like there was something suspicious there. But I don't want to be too conspiratorial in saying that he was maybe behind her lawsuit and maybe paying for it, and that he might be doing similar things. I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but it seems pretty weird that you will hire a female referee to not mentor the female referees or anything like that, but just to sit at home and do nothing for a year. Seems pretty odd. And then let's say you were doing it out of the goodness of your heart. Why stop at 1 year? Why only 1 year? Just saying. Moving on. Rey Fenix, he is not free. And I didn't even think about this when they talked about all the people who have been released from AEW. There was one name that went missing, and that name was Rey Fenix. Now, apparently, according to the dirt sheets, Tony Khan considered releasing Rey Fenix and then thought the better of it. Likely because of all the noise Phoenix had been kicking up. And he pretty much pissed Tony off. So he's like, nah, I'm going to make you sit. Has to be pretty shitty. You got to feel pretty bad for Phoenix. I mean, Miro pretty much went radio silent. And so did Malachi Black. So those guys just kind of sat and just didn't say anything. Ricky Starks only did a couple of interviews and then started working some indies, and then they cut him loose. But Phoenix, he made a couple of really drastic statements and kind of really cut to the bone of Tony Khan. So Tony Khan's not happy with Phoenix. So Phoenix doesn't get what he wants. Everybody, he gets the worst possible punishment. He gets to watch everybody else live his dream. That's the worst possible punishment. Everybody gets to go and run free except you. You got to sit here on your couch next to your grandma. Everybody else gets to go out and play. Nope, you got to sit next to me, Ma, as she's watching her stories. I'm not talking from personal experience. Let's get into... Wait a minute, is there something else? Yes, there is something else. So apparently Mercedes Moné will be appearing at House of Glory. The small-time wrestling show allegedly owned by Master P. Allegedly. I say allegedly, but it's factual. he does own House of Glory, right? But it's kind of a joke because he doesn't promote it at all. all this money Master P supposedly has, he doesn't promote Hog at all. Just whatever. The last time I think he even talked about it is when he tried to bring CM Punk in. That was 6 years ago, 2019 or something like that, I think. But basically he's leaving it to Amazing Red to run it because Amazing Red founded it. Neither here nor there. The important bit is this. Mercedes Moné is going to do some shows, or a show at least, for House of Glory. And the internet lit on fire as the Sasha stans were very upset that JD from New York is going to get to call a Mercedes Moné match. And apparently some things he said about her on his podcast disqualifies him from doing commentary, and they're all adding her suggesting that she refused to do the show unless JD is taken off the show. Which to me just screams petty, but I really want to see if it's going to work. I want to see if she's going to pull that card. Is she going to go to House of Glory and say, I won't do this if JD from New York is there? Because that would be super petty, and it would be quite humorous as well. To know that this guy with his show could bother her so much that she would refuse money to perform on these shows or this show if he's going to be calling the show. Now, we don't know what she's going to be doing there at the show. But Megan Bayne, who wrestled on this episode of Dynamite, by the way, is the House of Glory Women's Champion, and a lot of people are assuming that's what they're going to do. They're likely going to have some kind of Mercedes Moné, Megan Bayne match at House of Glory so she can win that belt too. Look, here's the thing about all these belts. If these companies don't got no steam, then why does anybody care about these belts? You can go and collect all the belts you want. Nobody knows one from the other. It's like when Ultimo Dragon had 10 belts or whatever. People only really recognized the WCW Cruiserweight title. The rest of those belts were just kind of like, okay, they were nice to have. It looked cool in a photo. And if you knew what the J Crown even was, that worked out great for you. But everybody else who sees that picture is like, what is all this shit? But this is what her ego needs at the moment, so you have to feed her ego. I mean, heavens to Betsy, you deny her something. The only thing I can say is, working for Master P, you better make sure you get paid. He has a history, a long history, of the money not finding its way into the right accounts. You might, if you're a real CEO, you get paid in advance. All right? If it's coming from Master P, get paid in advance. That's all I got to say. Let's move on to the regular part of this show. Like I said, I feel we got tricked into watching Collision. Hangman Page destroys Max Caster. For the first time in a long time, AEW actually pushed somebody to be substantially better than somebody else. Max Caster basically ran around the ring from Hangman, even hit in the crowd. He got a little bit of offense in, but mostly it was he got his ass beat, buckshot, lariat, and pinned. And then that was that. It's amazing that Hangman Page can get a squash match on this show, but Hobbs can't. Why is it that the people who should be getting squash matches can't get one? This dude can get a squash match, but Powerhouse Hobbs can't get a squash match. He got to go 10 minutes with anybody. Heavens to Betsy, Takeshita can't get a squash match on this show. Oh my God. Anyway, Hangman Page, he's Debo. Have you noticed that? He literally walked up to MJF and told him to leave. It's my interview. Get out of here. I'm like, what? This sissy ass school teacher telling you to beat it? He Debo around here now? Huh. Anyway, MJF made some really failed jokes about Jack Daniels cologne, and even Hangman didn't buy that one. Then MJF says that Hangman must have a crush on him, which I agree he probably does. And then he says that whatever this is that Hangman is doing, it's not in him. He doesn't have the guts for this because he's a joke. And he just goes on and on and on as Hangman is standing there listening to this shit. And then he walks off. And as he's walking off, Hangman looks forlorn, like maybe MJF has a point. Maybe all this anger built up in me. Maybe all this rage. Maybe it's not me. Maybe I just need more rainbows. Maybe I just need to go back to being a rhinestone cowboy. MJF has his match with Dustin Rhodes, which was not bad. Dustin can still hang. You know, Dustin is not terrible as long as it's not that often, right? So this match was commercial free because it was so special. They wanted to make sure MJF segment got a good rating. That's why. You know, you got to justify paying MJF all that money. Anyway, Dustin loses via crossface. He doesn't tap out. He just passes out. The referee stopped the match. Afterwards, MJF continued to attack Dustin Rhodes. This led to Hangman Page coming down to the ring. They got face-to-face, Hangman and MJF. MJF feigned like he was going to back off before he attacked Hangman Page. And then they fought, and 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 then they got separated. And then when they got separated, Hangman is cartoonishly mad, and he gets carried out. MJF gets the microphone, yells and calls Hangman Page a gutless coward, and said that he won't come back to fight him because he's a gutless coward. And then, of course, what happens? They come back and they fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. Fight, then they separated again. So, they separated again, and now they're going to be facing off next week. Not having a match, just having a face-off. They're having a face-off. Fine. They have genuinely pivoted away from MJF and Jeff Jarrett, right? Like that whole thing with Jeff Jarrett, oh boy, they dodged that one. That was like a razor sharp frisbee. They dodged that joint. Like, zoom. Like Kung Lao's hat. Like, zoom. Right past that motherfucker, boy. Ain't want nothing to do with that. Oh, that's dead, huh? I'm not even gonna blame you, bro. I'm not even gonna blame you. It was trash, so you got rid of it. The AEW fans really like Hangman, and they like MJF, so they like this pairing and they like this feud. For some odd reason, people actually kind of like this intense, seething Hangman. He just comes across like a guy who's pretending to be mad to me. This tight ass Hangman is about as phony as the drunk one. I don't like this guy. You know, it's just a personal thing, I guess. Speaking of not liking this guy, Swerve Strickland was cutting a promo on Ricochet about all the terrible things he wanted to do to him. And Prince Nana says that Swerve always has to make things personal. Why can't he just focus on the championship? Focus on the title. Focus on the money. And Swerve said he let Hangman go, and look what happened to him. He's not going to let Ricochet get away with this. I mean, Ricochet was about to stab a guy in the throat with some scissors. So, yeah, I mean, maybe we should deal with that. Maybe we shouldn't let the random scissor stabber do whatever he wants. You know, it just doesn't seem to make sense. We're just going to let this guy run amok and have scissors up to people's jugulars every week. Not a good idea. Nah. That's bad advice. Real bad advice. The second match on the show. The Trios titles, they still exist. The Death Riders defeat the Undisputed Kingdom, which includes Adam Cole. Can you imagine? Adam Cole is in the middle of something that has zero build and seemingly was thrown in the middle of the show. Hot damn. Have the mighty have fallen. It seems like Adam Cole is taking all the blame for the failure of the feud with MJF. He's taking all the blame for it. And now he's being forced to team up with Fish O'Reilly and Roderick O'Reilly. Okay. What do I call these people? Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong. These guys. Oh, man. They're a shadow of what they used to be, boy. They're a dark shadow. I thought maybe I know this was taped, but I had avoided spoilers. I thought maybe they do something slick, like have the Death Riders lose these trios belts. But they decided not to do that. Instead, they had Wheeler Yuta win a match. I know he didn't actually score the win, but he won, which is unfortunate. And also tells you how far Kyle O'Reilly, who absolutely looks sickly. He just looks sick. He looks like he got sickle cell. Like he got lupus. That's a sick looking guy, man. I don't know what's going on with Kyle O'Reilly. I hope he's okay. But he just looks pale and washed. It just looks like a dirty rag. I mean, my God, what's wrong with this guy? Adam Cole was not as terrible as usual in terms of physical shape. That was impressive. So after the match, the Death Riders continue to beat up the Undisputed Kingdom, and then here comes Daniel Garcia in 2.0. So Daniel Garcia and 2.0 are higher on the card than the Undisputed Kingdom. They got to save the Undisputed Kingdom. For starters, this is the first time I saw Daniel Garcia on this show in months. And the only thing he's done is chase somebody off. Who is he feuding with in this thing anyway? Is it Yuta? It's probably Yuta, isn't it? Oh, man. They really did trick us into watching Collision. But they weren't done with the Death Riders. They had a whole thing going all night. While the Death Riders were having a trios match, Edge snuck up behind Jon Moxley and hit him with a chair. Then Edge and Jay White stole the briefcase with the championship belt in it. They used bolt cutters to get it away from, I believe it was Marina Shafir that they got away from. Marina Shafir then attacked Willow Nightingale later on. She kicked her in the stomach. And, some bad things happen on these shows, man. And that's one of the saddest things I've seen. I don't want to see Willow getting beat up by Marina Shafir. So, as that happens, Moxley cuts a promo, says that Edge is a dead man walking, and he's pathetic. Edge then says that he can count on Moxley to appear in Australia, but if Moxley wants this briefcase back, he's going to have to come get it from him later tonight. And Edge also joked about carrying one of these things for most of his career. I'm talking about a briefcase. Okay. I got the joke, Adam. So we get to the final segment of the evening. And this is why I actually started paying attention to the show. Because Edge comes out and he looks like somebody's neighbor. Right? He looks like Jim Carrey when Jim Carrey was going through that weird time when he just was super beardy. Like you remember when Jim Carrey went through his bum stage where he insisted on growing a beard and it was all big and gray. At least his head wasn't like super gray. But Edge comes out, he's not even dressed like a professional wrestler. He's dressed like dad. Like he's about to go pick the girls up from school. He's about to make sure that his left and right turning lanes working. He's got his hands on the wheel, 10 and 2. He's going to go to the grocery store with his laundry list, and he's not going to forget the milk and the eggs this time. Just looks like the nicest guy in the world. Suburban dad, drives a Volkswagen, probably still has the dream of being a rock star, playing guitar a little bit for his wife to serenade her a little bit just to get a crumb of that cooch or something. He looks like a bum. Why did he get possessed with the spirit of Mick Foley? What is this? Mick Foley's not even dead. And his spirit is somehow infesting and possessing Edge. Edge looks like a fan. What is this? So they decide to do this, right? So Edge is going out. He's going to get this spike thing. It's a 2x4 with nails in it. And he threatens to crack open the briefcase if Moxley doesn't come out there. And I'm thinking, you had the briefcase for a while now at this point. And why should Moxley be so upset about you cracking this thing open? And why do you need a 2x4 with nails in it to crack it open? I don't know. Like, we could have gotten a crowbar or something. Like, it's kind of extreme. Anyway, Moxley comes out and he's hyperventilating about the belt being seen by people, which doesn't make sense. I don't understand why this matters. He's mad. He's talking about how he's the championship savior, is the championship shepherd. He said he cares. He cares so much about the title that he accepts Edge's challenge for the match at Revolution. Edge is like, okay, great, but I'm still going to crack this thing open. So he hits it once, hits it twice, hits it thrice, and it's still not open. And next you know, the Death Riders is beating everybody up because that's what happens on this show. Even though the Death Riders did get run off at the end, they got this thing going on. Look, my frustration with Edge and Moxley is just never going to subside, man. Just let's get through this match. Let's get through the match and hope for the best. I'm hoping it's a B+ match. It might end up being a C+, but let's just get to it. Everything involved in the Death Riders is more boring than it should be. You know? I don't understand why Edge couldn't crack the damn briefcase open and take the belt out just to show it to the people to make sure that it's in there. You know, but it seems like the belt is not in that briefcase. That's what it seems like. Because the belt seems like it would be bigger than that briefcase. So, that's me, though, but whatever. Let's get back into the regular part of the show. Samoa Joe, Shibata, and Hook defeated some jabronis. Then Samoa Joe threatened to kill Christian, called him a chicken ass. He got the crowd chanting chicken ass at Christian, which was interesting. Harley Cameron had a vignette where she was actually rapping over Mercedes Moné's CEO chant. And this was where Harley Cameron got the opportunity to do some tongue twisting, which is, fast rapping. And I was shocked. Not that she was good at it, but she could do it. I didn't even pay attention to anything she was saying. But it's like she really did study fast rapping and figured it out. And I was interested in that. Like, wow, this girl has 100 talents. And she then cuts a serious promo after she does the joking Mercedes Moné mockery with the puppet and everything. I thought that was cute. She sits down and cuts a real promo. She says that Mercedes is one of the best wrestlers in the world, but she had to start somewhere. And she also had to start from somewhere. And she said there was a time when, and she's talking about Harley, talking about herself, when she couldn't speak Chinese and she couldn't sing, she couldn't play the guitar, she couldn't rap, she couldn't do any of these things. And then she spoke a little bit Chinese and said, well, I guess I learned quickly. And then she says that Mercedes has elevated her, pushed her to be better, and now she's going to win the TBS championship. This comes off the heel of this other segment that I saw where Harley Cameron was in the ring playing the guitar, and she, got a pop playing the guitar, singing a song about Mercedes. And they really shoving Harley Cameron hard on this thing, man. I'm thinking they got to do it. I'm thinking they got to do it, man. I'm thinking they got to do it. Harley Cameron is really getting over. You probably should do it. They're not gonna, because I don't think Sasha Banks is going to agree to it. But they should. They got to do it. They should do it. It's the right thing to do. If you're really about elevating the women's division, you do it. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this girl, with limited time, and with nobody in any way expecting anything out of her, has managed to do some tremendous stuff. And she did not require a 15-minute promo. All of her promos and stuff are short. But she working with somebody who has done this kind of silly stuff before. Mercedes is, worked in WWE. She's used to these kind of skits and things like this. And she's using these things to elevate Harley Cameron. She actually is elevating somebody this time. That's why you should probably do it. Make it look like a fluke. And then, even if you require that she wins it right back the next week, you should do it. It's the right thing to do. I highly consider doing it. I think you should do it. Jericho is upset that Brian Keith did not get the bounty on Bandido, so he decides he's going to do it himself. So then Chris Jericho and Bandido, they get in the ring because they're going to do a duel. And I'm like, what is this? So they both agreed to meet in the middle of the ring where they stared at each other and then turned their backs to one another. And they tried to take 10 paces, but there was not enough room in the ring. They got to like 6 paces apiece. And then they turned around and tried to engage in a fight when Brian Keith grabbed Bandido's leg. From that point, Jericho jumped Bandido, and the rest of them did too. The Outrunners came out there to help. Then Big Bill came out there to help them. And then Hobbs came out to help Bandido. And it was just very collisionist here. All this is collision material. But let's talk about this duel. Because I did see the spot. They did it with Brian Keith and Bandido, where they met in the middle of the ring and they agreed to turn their backs on each other, and they walked away 6 paces and then ran at each other and stuff. Wrestling is full of absurd things. Wrestling has a lot of absurd shit in it. The duel is not the most absurd thing. It's not the most absurd thing, but it is clearly absurd. I don't know what else to say. It's ridiculous. But it fits the character of Brian Keith and Bandido, so it worked. It fits their gimmick. It just feels like Jericho is once again being a heat magnet. These guys got over doing something. It really popped the crowd and people were into it. So Jericho had to do it. And, okay, sure. I don't want everybody doing this. If it's really only Bandido or just Brian Keith or whatever, it could be fine. And really only at the beginning of the match. I think that would probably be the best place to do it is, when they introduce people, they should be face-to-face anyway, kind of like championship fights. And then the referee tells them, go to your neutral corner, and they turn around and take 6 paces. That would probably be a more natural way of doing it rather than doing it in the middle of the match. Like in the middle of the match, just like really poor psychology. But if you do it at the beginning, you get away with it, So, but it was funny. I can tell you that much. I was entertained by it. Megan Bayne defeated Maya World. Maya World, if I remember correctly, is a Booker T student. She attends Reality of Wrestling down there in Houston. Megan Bayne won the match. It was pretty convincing. She still does not change her facial expression. I've seen that girl in bikinis. I've seen her in person. I've seen her on TV. I've never seen her have a second facial expression. You talk about Johnny Gargano being Johnny's same face. Megan Bayne looks the same whether she's happy or sad. It's almost like she's Russian. Like she has no sense of humor, no sense of joy. I've never seen her smile. I've never seen her sell. She's like a Terminator. I don't understand. How could this be? Every picture the same face, regardless of position, regardless of where you are, whether it's in the snow, whether it's at the beach, same face. In the ring, winning or losing, same face. It's like GoldenEye. Like those characters in GoldenEye had those smoosh back faces and they never changed. Like a PlayStation 2 character. That's kind of how Megan Bayne is at this point. So Megan Bayne wins, and as she's walking up the ramp, Chris Statlander comes to the ring. And I was instantly intrigued by the idea of the female hoss fight. Chris Statlander eyes up Megan Bayne as she's walking by. I'm like, okay, this might be interesting. They get in the ring, Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford. Oh. Penelope Ford puts Statlander, I think it was on a hammerlock, and then licked her cheeks. And I was like, huh? How about that? And by that, I mean that Penelope Ford licked Chris Statlander's cheek. Listen. If you just want to go the lesbians, let's go. Let's go. You want to go to, the Ruthless Aggression era? Oh, let's go. Let's get it. I don't know what it is about these women wrestlers and the occasional gay male wrestler that just kind of turns these matches into fetish shit. But I don't mind when the girls are licking and kissing all over each other. I don't mind that. Let's go. If you're gonna be in there, you might as well be exciting in one way or the other. I'm not interested in watching them wrestle. And plus, this match was as obvious as the sunshine that Chris Statlander was going to win, and then she did. And then Megan Bayne attacked Chris Statlander after the match. Okay, that was decent enough. I'm interested in Megan Bayne versus Chris Statlander. I think it's too soon to do this because Megan Bayne is too new, and I don't think that it's fair to Chris Statlander to have to put over Megan Bayne without Megan Bayne, having to fight some other people first. But that's also why I'm glad she's doing jobber matches with Megan Bayne. She needed that. She needs, the exposure and everything. But Megan Bayne is the future. She could be a world champion. I truly believe in that. Mariah May said Toni Storm should have died in August, but Toni Storm can never write an ending. She said that Toni is nothing without her, and that everything Toni's trying to do, Mariah May's already done it better. Says she must love Toni because she's going to put her out of her misery, and this is going to be a mercy killing. I don't know, man. Mariah May is a bit aggressive for my taste. I mean, aggressive is fine, but she's always talking about ripping people's heads off and murdering them, and I'm like, wait a second. Is her character like she a serial killer or something? Because that seems to be the direction we're going. She's very violent and very murder forward promos here from Mariah May all the time. But I'm very interested in watching her wrestle Toni Storm, and that should be the main event of the Grand Slam show, so that should be fun. Main event of this evening was the Hurt Business defeating the Gun Boys, and that was fine. I love watching Lashley and Shelton Benjamin hurt folks and throw people around. The saddest part here is that the Guns are legitimately over, and it could matter if you gave them time. But they were just getting chucked around here. I mean, Shelton Benjamin threw that poor kid in the crowd without even trying. Like, I don't even remember which gun boy it was. But he ended up getting launched into the crowd, and Shelton Benjamin barely put his hands on him. I'm like, my God, what is this? They're tearing these kids across like toilet paper. This is bad. It's very bad. And then after they beat the Guns, just fluidly whooped their asses. Here comes Lance Archer and Brian Cage. I wanted to turn my TV off. If there's two people I don't want to see, it's Lance Archer and Brian Cage. I don't want to see those people. I don't like those people. Keep these people away from me. And they got to clapping like, yeah, I'm very impressed. Like, you guys never win anything. You never beat anybody. Who are you to try to come out here and intimidate Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin? Who are these people? The nerve of them, the sheer audacity of Brian No Wins Cage and Lance look up at the lights Archer coming out acting like they're going to fight the Hurt Business. Get out of here. So that's it for Dynamite. Not great. It was terrible, actually, we being honest. Everybody is calling for Tony Khan to spend some more money. They want him to sign Tegan Knox, a.k.a. Nixon Newell. And people want him to sign Jeff Cobb, who apparently is giving up on Japan. Jeff Cobb is like 50 now or something. I mean, I don't know, man. Japan is in really bad shape, by the by. Hiroki Goto, who won the world title over there. Lord have mercy. Hiroki Goto is a perennial loser. And just goes to show that New Japan is trying anything to pull up the nose on this goddamn flight. That's not going to work out. But Jeff Cobb, I mean, just a few years behind. I would like for Jeff Cobb to work in AEW. That would be great. He's a big, stout dude. He's a little older. But he would be great for AEW. He should have just signed them a couple of years ago when they could. But I don't mind Jeff Cobb coming in. But that seems to be the big push now, is that there's going to be some free agents. And Tony Khan needs the talent, especially on the women's side. But quite often, a lot on the men's side too. But the creative needs to change. That's a big problem with the company, is the creative is very drab. This Death Riders thing is murdering everybody. Everybody's feeling the pain. And it doesn't matter whether you're male or female or non-binary. this Death Riders thing is not we're clicking for nobody. It ain't clicking for nobody. Everybody's soul is being dragged from their body watching this thing. But the sparks of MJF and Hangman Page are okay. To me, that's the only thing on the show that was worth being interested in. And they're trying to really shove that in our face. But I would rather deal with that than 99% of the other stuff they got. So I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.